Hi, I'm Mike Harrington, and in 2014, I embarked on a health journey resulting in my losing over 200 pounds on my own. Since then, I've been sharing my story and have become an advocate for healthy living. Welcome to Mike Inspires Me, a podcast show about health, wellness, and amazing people to inspire you to take charge of your life and your health. Hey there, friends. I'm back. So last week we left off talking about one of the first 7 key things I did to set myself up for success with my 200-pound weight loss. And last week we went into a pretty good amount of detail on why I made my plan public in order to help me get started and keep the momentum. Well, today we're going to start talking about the next one, reinventing myself, or reinvented myself, and stopped identifying with obesity. It's funny as I kind of look back on some of these things, and like I said, I wrote this article a few years ago. I might have phrased some of these things a little different. The reinventing myself, I'm fine with. In fact, I think that's, it's something I would still call that, but to stop identifying with obesity, I probably not sure exactly how I'd phrase it. Let's get into the details of it. For some reason, I don't sit real comfortable with that today, and maybe we'll examine a little bit of why that is. It generalizes how I move forward, and at the time, that's probably how I felt. So in the article, I talk about, after struggling my entire adult life with attempts to lose weight, I realized that I had to change my life, not merely exercise and go on a diet. This had to be a commitment to a lifestyle in order to be sustainable. Part of that included my identification with being obese. All right, so here we go. Over the years, I had taken on labels like Big Mike and Big Guy. That happened quite a bit. When a person identifies with those labels, it may influence their behavior. Really? Well, I'll explain. Kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. All right. So if you know what those are, kind of like you speak something into existence. And I'm going to tell you, and it's not just my psychology background. There's something to that. But let's talk about the first part. I started to realize that I needed to stop identifying with obesity or being obese. And now it doesn't mean I fooled myself into thinking, well, I'm not obese anymore. And I still was. What it means is there were aspects of me that were comfortable with being obese. And I think that made it easy for me to stay there. Now, that sounds weird because it's kind of a paradox, because on the other hand, I didn't want to be there anymore. But there were things I think that I identified with. And I probably didn't realize this till much later, now that I'm on the other side, and I still feel like Big Guy, even though I'm half the size. Then I realized that I had to have a vision in my head. It's kind of like the talk I did on Dream It to Change It. I had to kind of have a vision in the head of who, I hate to say who I was going to be, but what I was going to look like, what 200-pound Mike, 200 less pounds Mike would be. Because I knew it certainly had to be different than the 450-pound Mike, because the behaviors, the way I felt about myself, the way I felt about life, were not serving me. All right. It was keeping me there. It was a cycle. And I think if you get caught in that cycle, you don't really find a way to get out. And I think that for me, in order to break that chain, it was kind of like, all right, it sounds terrible. Well, I shouldn't say it sounds terrible, but I don't want to be Big Mike, big guy anymore. All right. I feel like, oh, interestingly enough, I had a couple of shirts that were kind of playfully showing how I was comfortable with being a big guy. There was one where I forgot the name of the shirt. It escapes me right now, but it was a bigger men's product or clothing product, and it had some reference to that. And it escapes me right now. But the other thing, lose my train of thought on that, because that kind of bothers me that I don't remember the shirt. But anyway, so if you're labeling yourself, okay, Big Mike, I guess I could still call myself Big Mike at 200 less pounds, right? But it's interesting. I've been in some weight loss groups, and actually I saw one yesterday on Instagram, and there are people out there who are on weight loss journeys with names like Fat Guy, I don't know, losing it, or no, Fat Guy on a mission, okay? And I thought, that's okay. I get what you're doing, and I applaud that, because first off, I'm always excited when I see somebody take charge of their life and their health. That's exactly what my mission is about. Okay, so that's great. But what I struggle with is, okay, so when you're not Fat Guy anymore, who are you? You got to change your username? Are you still going to be Fat Guy, but you're no longer Fat Guy? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm nitpicking it, but deeper, I just wonder how, if you think in your mind you're Fat Guy on a mission, all right? If that's your identity, how are you going to sustain that change? Like, you can't think like that. You can't suddenly say, well, now, I mean, and I know I'm contradicting myself, because I still sometimes feel like that. I well realize now, it took me a few years to get over the body dysmorphia, the not realizing that I was, I had lost it all. I still kind of behaved in a way that made me think I was still 400 plus pounds. But it had to change. I had to, because part of that was what led me to certain behaviors with my eating, with my lack of, this again, the lack of caring about life. That was it wasn't because I was big, but it kept me in a cycle, because I didn't care about life, I didn't take care of myself. And because I didn't take care of myself, my health got out of whack, and I got really, really, really big. And that just exacerbated how much worse I felt about myself. It had to change, and maybe this whole thing, I don't know if people can relate to it. And if you are a person who's been through this, or if you're a person who is currently in the state I was, a bigger person, if this idea bothers you or not, or if it makes sense to you. But I had to stop thinking about Big Mike anymore, because maybe there was a lot of things wrapped up in Big Mike that were really keeping me in that old life where I wasn't alive. My body, my heart was beating, my brain was, I guess, functioning, but I didn't care about life. And it wasn't because I was overweight, but it was just, that's kind of the cycle it was in. It was like, well, I felt worse about myself because of it, but I already felt bad about myself. I had low self-esteem, didn't have much of a will to live, had no sense of purpose. And so I didn't take care of myself. But it's partially because I was identifying as a certain type of person. And maybe this is where I'm getting the uncomfortable with the, I stopped identifying with obesity. It was stop identifying with the sad, depressed, unhealthy person, Mike, that I was at the time. And I guess now that I'm thinking about it, that is part of it. And maybe that's why I don't want to just spearhead, it was stop identifying with obesity. I had to stop identifying with a label that I gave myself. I had to reinvent. It's weird. There's a lot of me that's still the same old Mike, and people who've known me before I lost weight and people who've known me all my life know that, but they also know there's a lot of me that's changed. And it had to. And not because I wanted to become a jerk, as I've been described sometimes, because I'm more confident now than I used to be. I don't take, some of the bull crap I used to put up with because of my low self-esteem. But that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing either, that I finally care about myself. I finally care about my life. And I care about my health because I care about my life. And I care about my family, my friends, you guys. I care because now I see a bigger sense of who I reinvented myself to be. And I became a person who cares about life and health. Not just for me, but for everybody. Now, I don't push it on you guys. I put it out there. I lay it out. You know me. Yeah, sometimes I preach a little, but because I'm passionate about it. It became who I am now. A guy who had to look at his life a little different and say, hey, I don't know how many years left. How the heck do I want to spend them? Like this? Miserable, unhealthy, low self-esteem, on the verge of taking your life? Or maybe there's a different thing I could do. And so I took a chance. I said, you know what? What do I have to lose at this point? Except the weight. Ba-dum-bum. I mean, I said, shoot, I'll give it a shot. Let me just see what it's like. I'm going to start identifying as a healthy person. I'm going to start identifying with a guy who does eat well and care about what he puts in his body. I'm going to start identifying as a guy who enjoys walking, hiking, lifting weights. Interesting thing is I did actually enjoy some of those things because I've been doing them for years. As you know, one of my big moments in my life was meeting my fitness idol, Gilad Janklowitz, creator of Bodies in Motion, the longest running fitness TV show shot on location in Hawaii for the past, 35 years, man? I don't even know what. On ESPN and a bunch of other channels. And I get to, I've been watching it all those years and I've been doing those exercises. And I get to meet him and not just meet him, but become friends with and hang out with him a few times and join the National Fitness Hall of Fame when he got his award. I became that guy standing on amongst some of the world's top fitness professionals at the National Fitness Hall of Fame, of which I'm a member, and watch these guys, pro bodybuilders, Annabelle Lopez, Tom Terwilliger, David Lyons, Lance Straher. Holy mackerel. I mean, I didn't follow the sport that much, but these guys apparently I found out later, are just legends. Some of them Mr. Americas, and met some other fitness professionals there. And I was like, who have I become? This is amazing. All because I changed the way I look at myself. You look at that picture of the guy before, and you look at the guy that I am now on television. Heck, The Price is Right. Nothing to do with any of this, but ironically. But I was at a point in my life where I tried to end it. I couldn't be that guy anymore. I had to stop identifying with not the obesity, and I guess that's where I'm Xing it out. Should X it out on the article. But with that old self that wasn't serving me. I didn't like being miserable. Nobody does. It sucks. But when I saw my dad die, when I looked in his eyes as the life left them, sorry to be morbid, but I'm going to tell you the truth. And I saw what in my mind was regret for, hey, it's too late. I'm about to die. And he knew. And I'm like, you know what? Bump that. I need to do something. I need to take charge of I need to learn something from this experience before my eyes of my father. He died from a different reason, but it was still the same thing I was heading towards. Not taking care of your health, killing yourself slowly. His was cigarettes, alcohol, and drugs. Mine was mostly food and stress. I'm going to be 51 years old in a couple of days. And my grandfather, my father's father, he died at 53. Now, granted, this was in 1974. He was morbidly obese. And he smoked. And he had a lot of stress. And he had a massive heart attack. Now, he might have survived it nowadays. I don't know. I still wonder. I mean, it's a long time ago. But the point is, that's young. I mean, I'm going to be 53 in a couple of years. In fact, I think that's how old my uncle is. His second youngest son. He's going to be 53, or he is 53. And if you look now, we've got a lot more life expectancy. As we start to care a little bit more about our health, we're taking better care of ourselves. But it wasn't enough because I knew the trajectory that I was on was heading for a struggling and miserable death. I don't know. We never know. It's morbid to think about how it's going to happen. You know, I keep telling Terry, I hope I just collapse out in the woods somewhere. I don't know. I keep thinking that. Hike with Mike. And then maybe someday, when I'm an old man, I'll just lay down and go to sleep out in the woods. You can just put the leaves over me. Morbid and funny, but the truth is I do hope I have a peaceful death, and I'm trying to have a good life. I mean, I believe in an afterlife, but I also believe in a purpose. And I believe that I'm here now because of my testimony here to you to give you a gift. If you're struggling with your life, if you're not happy with your health or things you're doing, and say, you know something, here's this guy. Some of you know me personally. We've hung out. We've done all kinds of things together. And if you haven't, I'd love to meet you someday. If you listen to my show and honor me by following what I say, this crazy guy who rants about health and all kinds of lifestyle medicine and eating plant-based and whole foods, and then goes and eats crap too, like everyone else, because I am just like everyone else in some ways. In some ways, I'm not. And the reason I'm not is I also have decided that I have to figure out what's best for me and not the rest of the world. I have to define what my health means to me and not listen to what other people tell me, not even a dang scale. In fact, I haven't weighed myself and I don't even know how long, a few years. I don't care about those things because I know I'm healthy. In fact, I'm going to the doctor in a couple of weeks. I'll get my bill of health again. I'm happy. Yeah, I struggle. But if I really compare to where I was a few years ago and hadn't reinvented myself and hadn't stopped identifying with that old self, I wouldn't be able to stay here. I wouldn't be here. I mean, yeah, maybe I could lose the weight, but if I keep in those old patterns, those old beliefs, it's going to make it that much harder to stay there because you quickly go back to the self-loathing. And I've had my moments. Trust me. I've been through some stress in the past year like everyone else, and some bad things that happened. We had deaths. We had some very bad financial things happen. Don't get into details. I'm okay. I thank you, the Lord. And I found a church community now and some new friends, and I'm feeling all right today. I'm feeling all right today because I'm constantly looking and evaluating, what am I doing? Is it serving me? Is it serving my health, my happiness? Isn't it getting me closer to where I want to be? My purpose. Inspire others to take charge of their lives and their health by being an example, a role model, but not a role model that shows you perfection. A role model who lets you know that I do struggle with anxiety. I do see a therapist. I do have to have those moments where I feel insecure. I don't want to paint a picture that makes you think it's perfect, but I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm not going to pound on the table here. I want my microphone. I wouldn't trade this for this where I was before at all. I feel like in a lot of ways I did win the lottery. I was corresponding with my friend Dr. Katz, David Katz. Some of you probably know who he is. One of the world's renowned lifestyle medicine doctors. And we correspond periodically. He was on my show. You've heard him talk several months ago, a year ago, actually. And he compared, I hope he doesn't mind, but he compared what I did, saying, Mike, we were having a conversation about something. He's like, for the average person, this is extremely difficult. It's like, he goes, sure, people can climb Mount Everest, but how many people are actually going to be able to do it? There's a point I'm going with here, and he's right. Okay, so I'm telling you, is to lose 200 pounds, and if you've got that much to lose, we're telling you it's really, really tough. And I'm not going to lie, but I'm going to tell you something though. I said to him, and he was kind of like, oh, this is interesting. I was like, but what if we don't focus on the whole thing? We just focus on one small piece. I don't want you to identify with thinking that you have to be Mike. You're not Mike. Maybe your name is Mike, but you're not this Mike. You got to identify with where you want to be, but you got to look at it in increments. Okay. And we'll be talking about that in a later episode, but I hope this helped you understand a little bit about why I felt it was important to reinvent myself and stop identifying. We're going to change that obesity part of it, but stop identifying with the sad, unhealthy, obese Mike. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me by the normal methods. You know how to reach me, or you can go to mike@mikeinspiresme.com. You can email me there. And check out my website too, mikeinspiresme.com. Keep listening to these. Feel free to pass them on. I could use the help in promoting this. And I'm going to start doing a little more of that, getting it out there, because I really want more people to hear my message, spread the word, the gospel of good health to everybody. Take care and stay awesome. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mike Inspires Me podcast. Stay tuned for future episodes and check out some of the past ones you may have missed. For more information on me and my story, go to mikeinspiresme.com. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Mike Harrington Official and on Twitter at Mike Inspires Me. Stay healthy and stay awesome.